On a tense evening in Los Angeles, a highly publicized exchange unfolded between two of the most influential figures in American public life, former President Donald J. Trump and media icon Oprah Winfrey. The controversy was ignited when Oprah publicly criticized what she described as a racist policy allegedly promoted by Trump's administration, impacting communities in Los Angeles. In response, Trump delivered a remark that has since reverberated across the national conversation. He told Oprah to go back to the ghetto. This report investigates the circumstances surrounding this statement, examining the political, social, and racial context in which it occurred. It aims to present a thorough, fact-based narrative of the events and their broader implications. Maintaining a professional journalistic tone throughout, Donald Trump, a former businessman turned politician, served as the 45th President of the United States from 2017 to 2021. His tenure was marked by controversial policies and rhetoric, particularly on issues related to race, immigration, and urban development. Known for his direct communication style and frequent use of social media platforms, Trump often engaged in combative exchanges with public figures and the media. Oprah Winfrey, by contrast, has built a legacy as a media mogul, philanthropist, and advocate for social justice. Her career spans decades of work promoting education, empowerment, and equality, especially within marginalized communities. Oprah's criticisms of public policies carry significant weight, both due to her extensive platform and her consistent engagement with racial and economic issues. Los Angeles, a city of immense cultural diversity and complex socioeconomic challenges, has often been a focal point for debates on racial equity and urban policy. Under Trump's administration, federal and local policies related to housing, policing, and social services sparked considerable controversy. Critics argued that certain measures disproportionately affected minority communities, exacerbating systemic inequalities. The incident between Trump and Oprah is not isolated. It reflects ongoing tensions in American political discourse, where issues of race, class, the policies at its core, and the reactions it has generated nationwide. Oprah Winfrey's public critique of the policies linked to Donald Trump's administration emerged during a televised town hall event in Los Angeles. Speaking candidly to a diverse audience, Oprah condemned what she characterized as systemic racial bias embedded in recent urban development and policing policies that, she argued, disproportionately harm minority communities in the city. In her remarks, Oprah highlighted the rise in homelessness and displacement in historically Black and Latino neighborhoods. She pointed to specific instances where federal funding cuts and support for aggressive law enforcement tactics had worsened conditions for vulnerable populations. Oprah emphasized the moral obligation of public officials to address these disparities. With empathy and equity, this was not the first time Oprah used her platform to spotlight racial and social justice issues. Her history includes campaigns to improve education, access, combat poverty, and raise awareness. About systemic racism, the media quickly amplified Oprah's statements. Major news outlets reported on her town hall speech as a direct challenge to Trump's policies. Editorials and opinion pieces framed her remarks as a courageous stand against racial injustice. Simultaneously, some commentators cautioned that her critique risked deepening political divisions. Public reaction was divided along familiar lines. Many in progressive circles praised Oprah for calling attention to neglected issues, while conservative voices criticized her for politicizing complex social problems. Notably, Oprah's critique gained traction on social media platforms, where hashtags related to racial justice and urban policy trended following her comments. Her influence mobilized community activists and encouraged further public discourse about the state of racial equity in Los Angeles and beyond. The backdrop of Oprah's criticism was a city grappling with decades-old inequalities compounded by recent economic pressures and political shifts. Her spotlight on the issue forced a confrontation with uncomfortable realities many residents face daily. Donald Trump's reply to Oprah Winfrey's critique came swiftly and publicly, escalating the confrontation to national prominence. Utilizing his preferred channels of communication, this remark was disseminated through his verified Twitter account and amplified by supporters and various media outlets. The context of Trump's response was a press conference held at a campaign rally in Los Angeles, shortly after Oprah's televised comments. He accused Oprah of misrepresenting facts and catering to political opponents by stoking racial tensions. Trump's specific phrase, the phrase evoked a long and painful history in the United States of marginalized communities being demeaned or dismissed based on their economic status and racial identity. The immediate reaction from the public and media was intense. News organizations quickly condemned the remark as divisive and unbecoming of a former president. Several analysts pointed out that such language could exacerbate existing social fractures and undermine efforts toward racial reconciliation. Trump's supporters, however, largely defended the comment. Some framed his words as an attempt to call out elite hypocrisy or urban policy failures. Social media platforms were flooded with both outrage and defense, with trending hashtags reflecting polarized views. Advocacy groups for racial justice condemned the remark as racist and damaging to the social fabric, calling for public accountability. Legal experts and political commentators weighed in on the implications of Trump's statement. While it did not constitute a legal offense, many noted it fell short of the standards expected from public figures, particularly those with significant influence over public opinion. The phrase "go back to the ghetto" thus became a focal point in the ongoing debate about race, rhetoric, and political leadership in contemporary America. It highlighted the volatile intersection of language, power, and identity in the public sphere. Donald Trump's "go back to the ghetto" remark did not emerge in a vacuum. It fits within a pattern of rhetoric that has marked his public communications over many years. Throughout his political career and before, during his 2016 presidential campaign, Trump repeatedly referred to Mexican immigrants using language widely condemned as xenophobic, immigration, and national identity. Additionally, his comments about African American communities, including remarks about crime and welfare dependency, have been scrutinized as reinforcing harmful stereotypes. This kind of rhetoric is not unique to Trump. American political history contains numerous examples of leaders and public figures using coded or overt language that alienates or diminishes racial minorities. The phrase "go back," directed at people of color, has a long legacy tied to exclusionary and racist attitudes, often aimed at immigrants or minority communities perceived as outsiders. In the broader context, political communication often walks a fine line between robust debate and incendiary language. Stigmatization. Academic research has shown that such rhetoric can influence public perceptions and policy attitudes, sometimes fueling social polarization. Within this historical and social framework, which adds weight to their impact and significance, public discourse benefits when political leaders use language that promotes inclusion and understanding rather than division. The recurrence of racially charged comments by influential figures undermines these goals and challenges the progress toward equity and mutual respect. Central to the dispute between Oprah Winfrey and Donald Trump are the policies in Los Angeles concerning housing, policing, and social welfare measures that critics label as racially biased, while supporters argue they promote public safety and economic revitalization. Under scrutiny are several initiatives implemented or supported during Trump's administration that directly affected Los Angeles's urban communities. These included increased federal funding for law enforcement agencies encouraging tougher policing in areas identified as high-crime zones, as well as the redirection of resources away from affordable housing programs toward market-driven development. Opponents argue these policies disproportionately impact Black and Latino neighborhoods, contributing to the displacement of longtime residents through gentrification and increased policing that some claim criminalizes poverty. Reports indicate rising homelessness in these communities and increased tensions between residents and law enforcement. Conversely, proponents defend the policies as necessary steps to reduce crime rates and stimulate economic growth. They cite data showing decreases in certain violent crimes and argue that revitalizing neighborhoods attracts investment and job opportunities. Experts in urban policy stress the complexity of the situation. They note that while safety and economic development are legitimate goals, they must be balanced with equity considerations to avoid reinforcing systemic disparities. Several community leaders emphasize the need for inclusive planning that prioritizes affordable housing and community-led solutions. Recent independent studies commissioned by nonpartisan think tanks reveal mixed outcomes: crime reductions in some districts alongside significant increases in housing insecurity. The reports call for nuanced approaches that address root causes rather than solely applying enforcement-heavy tactics. This chapter highlights the contested nature of the policies at the heart of the conflict. It underscores how urban governance intersect with racial and socioeconomic dynamics, setting the stage for the public clash between Oprah and Trump. Understanding the policy background is essential to grasp why Oprah's criticism resonated with many and why Trump felt compelled to respond forcefully. The controversy sparked by Donald Trump's remark and Oprah Winfrey's criticism drew swift and varied responses from political leaders, advocacy groups, and community organizations across the spectrum. Democratic officials condemned Trump's "go back to the ghetto" comment as overtly racist and divisive. Prominent figures called for accountability, emphasizing that such language is unacceptable from any public figure. let alone a former president? Several Democrats highlighted the broader implications for race relations and urged renewed commitment to policies promoting equity and inclusion in Los Angeles and nationwide. Republican reactions were more mixed. Some party members distanced themselves from the inflammatory language, expressing concern that it undermined conservative values of respect and civility. Others, however, defended Trump's broader policy positions and framed his response as justified criticism of what they described as politically motivated attacks by Oprah and her allies' civil rights organizations, including the NAACP and the Urban League, issued strong statements denouncing Trump's language as racist and harmful. They reiterated calls for systemic reform in policing, housing, and social services, and urged public officials to adopt a more respectful and constructive dialogue around these issues. Local Los Angeles leaders also weighed in. Mayor Eric Garcetti expressed disappointment over the escalating rhetoric, calling for unity and constructive engagement. Community activists in affected neighborhoods highlighted the real human impact of the contested policies and emphasized the need for inclusive solutions. The incident intensified discussions within the Republican Party about its direction and messaging on race. Analysts observed a growing divide between traditional conservatives seeking broader electoral appeal and factions embracing Trump's combative style. International observers noted the episode as a reflection of ongoing racial tensions within the United States, cautioning that such high-profile disputes can influence America's global reputation regarding civil rights and social justice overall. The diverse reactions underscore the complexity of the issue and the challenge of navigating deeply entrenched divisions in American society. The dispute between Oprah and Trump has become a focal point for debates about leadership, language, and responsibility in addressing racial inequalities. The public dispute between Donald Trump and Oprah Winfrey quickly became a focal point for media coverage across the United States and beyond. Major news outlets approached the story from different editorial perspectives, reflecting broader political and cultural divides. Mainstream newspapers such as the New York Times and the Washington Post framed the incident as a significant escalation in racial tensions, highlighting Trump's controversial language and Oprah's critique of policies impacting minority communities. These outlets emphasized the potential damage to social cohesion and the risks of polarizing rhetoric in a politically charged environment. Conversely, conservative media platforms, including Fox News and Breitbart, presented the controversy through a lens sympathetic to Trump. Coverage often framed Oprah's criticism as politically motivated and Trump's response as a defense of law and order policies. Commentary on these outlets frequently questioned the fairness of media portrayals and criticized what they perceived as a liberal bias. Social media amplified the polarization, with hashtags related to both Trump and Oprah trending worldwide. Platforms like Twitter and Facebook saw widespread debates, with users expressing strong opinions on both sides. Influencers, activists, and celebrities contributed to the conversation, often encouraging their followers to engage in the discourse. Public opinion polls conducted in the weeks following the incident revealed a divided nation. Surveys indicated that a majority of Democratic-leaning respondents viewed Trump's remark as unacceptable and racist, while a significant portion of Republican voters either supported Trump's overall stance or downplayed the offensive nature of the language used. Independent analysts noted that the incident had a measurable impact on Trump's favorability ratings among minority voters, contributing to further erosion of support in key demographics. Oprah's standing, meanwhile, was bolstered among progressive audiences. Though some critics accused her of exacerbating political divisions, media watchdog organizations raised concerns about the role of sensational headlines and selective coverage in deepening societal rifts. They advocated for balanced reporting that contextualizes contentious statements without inflaming tensions. Donald Trump's statement telling Oprah Winfrey to go back to the ghetto sparked not only political and social debate, but also discussions surrounding legal and ethical implications for public figures. From a legal standpoint, free speech protections under the First Amendment generally shield political commentary, even when it is offensive or inflammatory. Trump's remark, while widely condemned, does not constitute hate speech or incitement under U.S. law, which requires a higher threshold of direct harm or imminent violence. Thus, no legal penalties are likely to arise solely from his words. However, the ethical considerations are more nuanced. Public officials and influential figures are often held to higher standards of conduct due to their capacity to shape public opinion and social norms. Ethical frameworks for political leadership emphasize respect, responsibility, and efforts to foster social cohesion. Many ethicists argue that language such as Trump's perpetuates harmful stereotypes and undermines trust in public institutions. It can contribute to a hostile environment for marginalized communities. increasing social alienation and potentially inciting indirect harm. Media organizations and political parties also face ethical choices in responding to such remarks. Decisions about whether to amplify, condemn, or contextualize inflammatory statements impact public discourse and social harmony. Furthermore, organizations dedicated to racial justice point to the importance of accountability mechanisms beyond legal sanctions. These include public apologies, corrective actions, and policy reforms aimed at repairing damage caused by divisive rhetoric. This chapter highlights the gap between what is legally permissible and what is ethically responsible in political communication. It underscores the need for ongoing dialogue about the standards expected of public leaders in a diverse society. Understanding these distinctions helps contextualize the broader impact of Trump's statement beyond immediate political fallout, emphasizing the importance of ethical leadership in addressing sensitive racial issues. The confrontation between Donald Trump and Oprah Winfrey, centered around racially charged language and contested policies, resonated far beyond Los Angeles, influencing national conversations about race relations in the United States. In the weeks following Trump's "go back to the ghetto" remark, community leaders, activists, and ordinary citizens engaged in dialogue and protests addressing systemic racism and inequality. Several cities witnessed rallies advocating for racial justice, police reform, and equitable housing policies, drawing connections to the incident as symptomatic of deeper societal issues. The episode also sparked renewed debate in academic and policy circles regarding the persistent influence of racially coded language in political discourse. Scholars emphasized how rhetoric shapes public perceptions and either advances or hinders efforts toward racial reconciliation. For many minority communities, Trump's words confirmed feelings of marginalization and exclusion, exacerbating distrust toward political institutions. Conversely, some groups argued that focusing on rhetoric diverted attention from substantive policy changes needed to address systemic inequities. Media analyses highlighted how the incident illustrated the challenges of balancing free expression with social responsibility, particularly in a polarized society. The dialogue underscored the need for inclusive leadership and constructive conversations about race. Politicians across the spectrum acknowledged the importance of addressing the underlying issues revealed by the dispute. Some proposed legislative measures aimed at reducing housing disparities and improving community policing, though consensus remained elusive. Ultimately, the Trump-Oprah incident served as a catalyst for broader public reflection on race relations, power dynamics, and the role of language in shaping social realities. It revealed both the progress made and the persistent challenges facing America in its pursuit of racial equity. The exchange between Donald Trump and Oprah Winfrey, marked by Trump's directive for Oprah to go back to the ghetto following her criticism of racial policies in Los Angeles, encapsulates the persistent tensions at the intersection of race, politics, and public discourse in America. This investigative report has traced the incident, from its initial context and key players, through the diverse reactions it provoked. Political, social media, and legal has shown how language wielded by prominent figures can both reflect and influence broader societal divides. The episode underscores the challenges facing U.S. society in addressing systemic racial inequalities, particularly in urban environments like Los Angeles. It highlights the consequences when political dialogue devolves into incendiary rhetoric that alienates and polarizes communities. Looking ahead, the incident may serve as a catalyst for renewed attention to equitable policymaking, ethical political communication, and the imperative for leadership that fosters unity rather than division. Community activists and policy experts alike emphasize the need for concrete actions beyond words to improve housing, policing, and social services in marginalized neighborhoods. Politically, the incident has intensified scrutiny of Trump's approach to race-related issues, potentially impacting his influence and legacy. For Oprah, the confrontation reinforces her role as a vocal advocate for social justice, while also illustrating the risks inherent in public activism. Ultimately, the nation faces a choice: to allow such confrontations to deepen fractures or to leverage them as opportunities for meaningful dialogue and reform. Achieving the latter will require commitment from leaders, institutions, and citizens alike. As America continues to grapple with its complex racial history and present challenges, incidents like this one remind us of the power of words and the urgent need to use that power responsibly. If you found this investigation insightful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more in-depth reports. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update, and please give this video a like to support our work. Your engagement helps us bring you accurate and timely information. Thank you for watching.